Hey Bob, what do you got going on this weekend? Need to pick up a double shift to make some extra money. What about you? Dude, tell me about it. I'm glad I finally have income stream set up so I've got money coming in the door when I'm not actually working. You know how it is. What? No, I don't know how it is. You have money coming in the door even while you're sitting on the couch this weekend? Well, yeah, it's called passive income. You should really try it instead of having to come in for these doubles every weekend. Catch you later, man. Hey folks, so today we are gonna talk about the 5 passive income streams that I have set up that allow me to make money 24/7, even while I sleep. And the craziest part of the entire video, I think, is the fact that anyone can get started. Now, I'm not saying that just because you can't get started, you're gonna make millions of dollars tomorrow. In fact, when I first started, it was nothing. And then it was pennies. And then it was $1 here or there. And then 10, and then maybe 100. And eventually, last year, I had a day where I did $5,361 passively. So use this as a template, as a guide, as inspiration, and we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. So here's the thing. I like working as much as the next guy or gal, in the sense that I come in, I do my shtick, and I clock out. And I can't wait for the day where I just get to kick back, throw up my feet, and the money just starts rolling in. Well, this very first idea allows me to do just that, dividend investing. What's that?
So according to our friends at Investopedia, a dividend is a distribution of some of a company's earnings to a class of its shareholders as determined by its board of directors. Common shareholders of a dividend-paying companies are typically eligible as long as they own its stock before the ex-dividend date. Dividends may be paid out as cash or in the form of additional stock.
So what? Put another way, you can think of a dividend as a thank you card. Companies want to go and thank their investors for investing their hard-earned cash with said company, except it's not a card, it's cash. Cold, hard cash. Now the number we care about is the dividend yield. Let's take Procter & Gamble for an example. We go ahead and pull up this chart. We can see that 2.61% was the last yield. So if you had purchased $100 of Procter & Gamble stock prior to when they issued this dividend, you would have gotten $2.61 just for holding the stock. You're not selling, you're not doing anything. They're just saying, hey, thanks for investing in us. Here is some money. As it comes to the nitty-gritty of trying to select a single stock, there's a slew of different indicators you can look for. You can look at the price to earnings ratios. You can look at debt to equity ratios. You can look at the profit margins. But if you're like me and kind of lazy and you're just looking for some dividend yield, take a look at the dividend aristocrats. Dividend aristocrats are companies that are in the S&P 500 and that have paid an increasing dividend every year for the past 25 years. 3M and IBM are both dividend aristocrats. However, if you're like, hey man, I don't really like holding individual stocks, I want broader exposure, I'm with you. So next you could look at dividend paying ETFs. And an ETF or an exchange traded fund gives you exposure to a broader basket of stocks. An ETF can be used to mimic things such as an index, for example, S&P 500 ETFs, or you could use ETFs to trade in a particular sector, say energy or utilities or pharmaceuticals. And there are ETFs slanted towards paying out high dividends. I do want to say here, none of this is financial advice. It's all purely for educational purposes only. Of course, all investing carries risk. Make sure you do your due diligence. The other thing I want to caution is when it comes to dividend investing, don't just go chasing the highest possible yield. Yes, we want more yield. However, really understand why that yield is so high. When we think about a dividend yield, it's the dividend payout over the share price. Let's say, for instance, that a company is issuing a 10% dividend yield. Well, part of the reason it's issuing a 10% dividend yield is maybe that share price, the denominator, is getting smaller, and so that yield is gonna get bigger. If that's the case, then maybe next quarter or next year, there might actually be a dividend cut because the company's not performing as well. So I just wanna caution, don't go sort high to low and pick the highest one. Make sure to do your due diligence. Now to jump into earnings potentials, we can look at some of the dividend aristocrats I talked about earlier. For example, Walgreens Boots Alliance had a last dividend yield issue of 5.16%. 3M issued at 5.14%, and IBM, yeah, they're still kicking, issued at 4.89%. And as I took a look at my portfolio last year, it kicked off about $2,600 in dividend. This next passive income strategy is probably the hardest one on the list to get going because you're gonna need some capital. But once you get going, I think it's the one that could probably have the greatest return in terms of adding to your net worth: real estate. And as it comes to real estate, there are endless possibilities of how you can invest in real estate. You could do short-term rentals, you could do fix and flip, you can do wholesaling, you could do long-term rentals. The list is quite literally endless. But right now we're gonna focus on what I do, which is long-term buy and hold rental properties. So here are my 8 steps on how you can get started in real estate investing. Keep in mind, folks, this in and of itself could be an entire dedicated hour-long course, but I'm gonna run through it and hopefully you kind of pick up the gist. If you have questions, obviously comment down below. Step 1, determine where you want to invest. Are you gonna invest locally in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city, or are you gonna go out of state? The reason people might go out of state is you might be chasing cash flow, or it might be too expensive to get started where you currently are. Step 2, go ahead and start building out your team. Now, you don't need 20 people, you don't need 10 people. Honestly, you need 1 person, maybe 2. And the 1 person I'm talking about is a real estate agent. That person's gonna know the area, they're gonna know comps. They're basically gonna be your guide as you get going. Now have your agent recommend you a lender because that's the person that's actually gonna help you come up with a lot of the money. In terms of how to actually find a good agent or lender, I recommend going to local area meetups. That's how I found my agent, and really your networking. You could also try forums, so Bigger Pockets is a large real estate investing community. The pro tip for you is don't get attached to the first agent that you work with. Feel it out, it's a working relationship. Do you like working with them? Kind of, do they match your style? And a pro tip for the lender is they're the money person. They're gonna be the one that actually helps you get the financing for the deal. So you wanna be very clear with them in terms of what your financial outlook is so that they can go ahead and talk about different various loan products with you. And if you find that early on that they might not be doing, let's say, an FHA type of loan because for whatever reason that's not the typical deal volume they see, that's perfectly fine. Just move on to another lender that will. Step 3, determine location. Again, this time though, you're looking at towns, you're looking at suburbs. Is where you're buying in the path of progress, is it structured well for your rental property? And so you wanna get pretty granular, and at this point it'd be great to consult your agent in terms of getting their take, especially if they're working with investors of, hey, where should we ideally be looking? Step 4, I think this is the most important step. Run the numbers, run the analysis. You pull up a property. It's a 2-fam property, listed at $800,000. It's got 8 bedrooms in it, 4 bedrooms on either side. Tell me, is that a good deal or a bad deal? Well, if you're first starting out, you might have no idea. But for me, I know that if it's in a particular zip code in Boston, $800K for a 2-fam with that many bedrooms, I'd probably jump on that. When you're starting out, you're not gonna know that. So get comfortable with projecting your income. Use things like Rentometer or use things like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace to get a gauge of what the rents might be. Use your agent to help you pull rental comps. As for the expenses, I'm not as worried about expenses. Like, yes, throw in 10% to cover your variable expenses, but your expenses are fixed. And the third number is what type of return are you looking for? 2%, 5%, 10%, 15%. What is the opportunity of that money if it's not invested in real estate? Get familiar with those numbers of income, expense, and what is your rate of return that you're looking for, and run numbers. I kid you not, when I first got started in real estate, especially in the Boston area, I probably ran the number for every single multifamily within the certain zip codes I was looking at. I mean, it was pretty easy. My fiance actually built out a calculator for us to do that because I don't want to see something and figure out, oh, it's actually a terrible investment. Step 5, showings. Get ready to give up your weekends. You are going to go and walk properties. You're going to go and figure out what exactly matters in a property. Do we actually care about the cosmetics? Not really, but as long as bones are good, then we're good. Fun fact, in the Boston area, we have this thing known as settling. When houses get old, they sag. Guess what? Sagging, it's actually okay as long as structurally it's not gonna sag some more. Step 6, offers. Go ahead and get your offers out. Now, I can't tell you how many offers we put out until we finally got one accepted. It is a volume game, especially if you're gonna use a loan product I'll talk about in a second. Step 7, once you've got an offer accepted and you've closed on the property, it's time to go ahead and relist out your property. And step 8, let the good times roll. You've listed it, it's rented, and the cha-ching just comes on in. I'm kidding. Step 8, yes, it is closing. Yes, it is listing it. Yes, it is having some money come in, but now you are a full-time landlord, and that is obviously gonna be your job. Yes, the income is quote unquote passive in that every month it will come in, but like I said though, it's not gonna be easy, but it's still going to involve a little bit of work on your end. Now, once you have processes set up, let's say maybe you might get property management, once you scale, like yeah, it will become more and more passive over time, but when you first start out, there's a pretty high activation energy you wanna achieve before that thing becomes a lot more passive. So what's the cost to get started? You could technically start with 0. I would say technically because it won't be easy. So a 0% down VA loan, right, for folks who are veterans. However, most likely you're gonna have to put in some money. I started with a 3.5% down FHA loan, buying my first multifamily property, did a classic house hack, live in one unit, rent out the other. After a year, I move out, put tenants in it, and there you go. It's generating me residual income every single month. So in terms of that total dollar amount, it's gonna vary greatly depending on where you are in the country. But for me, it was scrimping and saving and coming up with $21,000 plus for the down payment in order to go ahead and get started. I've got 3 properties, or I guess technically 6 doors. And for one of my properties actually generates over $1,000 a month, which is still crazy for me to think about because I remember when I first got started in real estate, I thought, oh boy, if I could crack $150 a door, so basically being able to pull in maybe like $300 to $400, that would be insane because again, in coastal cities, you don't see a ton of cash flow. It's a lot of appreciation in equity. But I mean, I feel like I guess I did it well. I structured my deal well. This thing kicks off over $1,000 a month. And in the past now 2 years, we've built up well over $250,000 of equity in that property where I could draw from it either using a HELOC or a cash out refinance. Next idea. So you know how it seems like every single week over week, it's inflation this, inflation that, the Fed this, the Fed that. And all that happens is interest rates go up. Mortgage interest rates go that way. Credit card interest rates go that way. And it just kind of all sucks. Well, it actually doesn't all suck. In fact, with interest rates up, what it actually helps us is in our interest rates from our savings accounts, specifically high yield savings accounts and certificates of deposit. And if you're interested in some of the top savings accounts in 2023, I'll leave a link for a video I did up here. But all you need to know is when you give your money to a bank, they loan it out. Now, up until this year, they were paying abysmal interest rates. But this year, because interest rates across the board are up, their interest rates that they're willing to pay us are also up as well, well over 4%. If you got money, make sure that it's not just chilling in a regular savings account or even honestly some checkings accounts, and get that thing either into a high yield savings account or a certificate of deposit. The difference between a high yield savings account and a certificate of deposit is that a CD is a little bit less liquid. You're committing that for X period of time, whereas a high yield savings account, you can take the money out if you need it. The fourth idea I have here is the government. Well, not the government, it's related to the government. See, the US government needs a lot of money. The US government has a lot of debt, but that's totally cool because Uncle Sam's word is always good for it. And so what the US government will do is they will sell bonds. Basically, if you loan money to the US government, they give you a little IOU saying, hey, we're gonna pay you back plus some interest. And right now, as I see it, Treasury bills have some of the highest yields for fixed income products that we've seen in a very, very long time. What makes the Treasury bond especially appealing is that the interest that you generate on it is actually not subject to state income tax. So for me, in Massachusetts, we have a state income tax of 5%. If I purchase a Treasury bond though, the interest income that generates is not going to be subject to that 5%, but I'll still have to pay the federal income tax on that interest. So how to actually get started investing in Treasury bonds? It's actually a bit of a process. When I first did it, I actually had to call Charles Schwab and say, hey guys, can you walk me through the process? I've never purchased them before. You have 2 options. You can either buy them live at auction, meaning twice a week or 3 times a week, they are literally sold to you directly from the government, or you can buy it on the secondary market, right? Someone bought in, they want to get out. And that is actually where I ended up buying my Treasury bond. That's a process. However, here's a pro tip. Public.com is now launching a Treasury option in which you can much more easily purchase Treasury notes than previously, right? You don't actually have to go and call someone and have them walk you through it. You could just swipe open your public app and you can start buying and selling in there. The one thing I want to caution on when it comes to these Treasury bonds though, is that you do have to hold to maturity in order to get the full yield. Unlike a high yield savings account where you put money in and you're going to be earning that, 3%, 4%, whatever it is, with Treasury bills, you have to hold that 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, 12-month, all the way to maturity to get the full yield. Otherwise, you're gonna lose out on some money. That's the only thing you wanna be cautious of. So for Treasury bills, I would say this is money that you know you don't need in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And so you're willing to loan it out to the government in exchange for a pretty juicy yield. And as I am filming this video today, a 12-month T-bill has a yield of 4.92%. Folks, that is the securest of secure returns out there. But of course, the caveat is you gotta hold it for the entire 12-month duration to pull out all that sweet, sweet, juicy yield. Now on to our last idea. This is one I truly, in my heart of hearts, used to think impossible. There's no way this is something I could ever get going. And yet, here I am, 2023, and this is exactly what I'm doing, and that's creating content on social media. I didn't specifically call out YouTube because I create content on Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube, and we'll even throw in Facebook as well. But pretty much with social media, I've seen now the revenue opportunities are endless. So the 3 main ways you'll make money when you're creating content on social media are from ads. You make a YouTube video, you make a TikTok or an Instagram, ads play, you get a portion of those ads. 2, you have affiliate income. You talk about a product, you recommend the product, someone purchases the product, uses the product, whatever it is, you get a percent of that commission. Third one is working with sponsors. So brands come on, they say, hey, would you like to collaborate? You say yes, great, make a video, and there you have it. Now, if I were to start things all over again, here's exactly what I would do. 1, figure out my niche. It was easy for me 2 years ago when I got going to jump into the credit card / personal finance niche because that's largely what I was pretty obsessed over actually. Opening cards, traveling for free, investing money, real estate. And so it was very natural to fall into that. However, if you might not know, hey, what exactly do I want to create content on, do some research, right? Really figure out what are you passionate about? What do you like talking about? What do you like obsessing over? It's gonna make it that much easier. Now, I'll also be honest, finance is probably one of the higher paying niches out there. So that certainly helped, but don't just go chasing the dollar signs. Because the thing with social media and content creation is the fact that it is a marathon. If you sprint, you're gonna burn out, you're not gonna have a great time. And honestly, you probably won't make as much money as you think. Be very specific in terms of the type of niche you wanna jump into. And if I can offer a pro tip to anyone out there, get very granular when you first start. I think that helped me. Very granular in terms of talking about credit cards. That allowed me to build up an audience. And then I was able to start talking about more general finance when I was on TikTok as well as Instagram. And kind of, you guys probably see it now on my YouTube page, we're going more broader general finance. But when you first start out at a much more granular level, you're point specific, you're a domain area expert, it's easier to build an audience than kind of just spraying and praying and talking about everything there is in between. Really have a strategy dialed up of how exactly it is you're gonna scale and have a roadmap. It's not just today, tomorrow, it's this month, next quarter, next year, and what does year 3 look like? Step 2, platform. Where are you gonna primarily be? Are you primarily gonna be on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? What platform works best for you? In the past 2 years, short form video has absolutely exploded onto the scene with TikTok. Is that something you might be interested in? I would say sitting where I am now, I look back and I say, yeah, I would probably go with short form media because that's probably the easiest platforms to gain traction, gain an audience on, and then moving back into the more established players, YouTube, newsletter, because that's where you're gonna build a lot more of a long-term relationship with your audience, build community, and also people can actually watch you for longer than a 15-second skit. But again, that's all gonna come down to personal preference, right? However, just because I say I think this is easier, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to start with short form video. If you're like, hey, listen, John, I've got years of filmmaking experience and video editing experience, then I say, jump onto YouTube, go all in, because I still think this is the gold standard for content creation. Step 3, content. Content. Don't get lost in the sauce. Don't get caught up in analytics. Don't worry about these click-through rate numbers, viewership numbers. When you first get started, it is muscle memory. You just have to produce content. And I'll talk about it in the context of YouTube and TikTok. For me, when I got first going on TikTok, I remember I was doing 3 to 5 videos a day for probably a month and a half. And it was just, you're just iterating. Make a video, make a video, make a video. What does well? That does well, make that again. That was it. It's a grind. It is not, all right, we're gonna wake up tomorrow, we're gonna make content, and we're gonna make a bunch of money. No, absolutely not. And I say it again, don't get caught up on analytics. Don't fall into the, I'm shadow banned because blah. I've had weeks where I've had terrible performing videos. It's not because I'm shadow banned, it's because I've had bad videos. Like, it's on me, trust me. It will come. And as you grow, then the revenue opportunities start coming in. Join the YouTube Partner Program, you get AdSense dollars. On TikTok, you've got a creator fund there. On Instagram, they've got a fund or a bonus pool there as well. But getting to that point, it is going to take some time. All these passive income ideas, including social media, is certainly not one that flip the switch, tomorrow you are rich. Specifically though, you're probably wondering, all right, John, how did you do over $5,000? So for me, that was on affiliates. When I talk about, especially when it comes to credit card products, there's an affiliate commission that I earn. And so one of my highest days ever was over $5,000, which is something I don't think I could have ever even dreamed of in my wildest dreams. When I got first started on creating content, I was like, okay, this would be a great side hustle, right? I was working in tech, a very well-paying job. I never thought I was gonna leave. And yet here I am, which is absolutely insane. Folks, like I said, if I can do it, I think y'all could absolutely crush it. So some of the cautions when it comes to creating content on social media, comparison is a theft of joy. When you first get going, don't compare yourself to someone who has 1 million followers, 10 million followers. Just stay in your lane, focus on you. Trust me, that thing is going to pay off. And as for earnings potential, social media is where in one day last year, I did over $5,000 passively. It came in the door. I wasn't doing anything. I don't know what I was doing that day, but the next day I woke up and I said, wow, that just hit the door. Now, specifically in that case, that $5,000 came largely from affiliate income. And so it's me talking about various products, credit cards being a huge portion of that. But if I go back even 2 years, don't even think I could have even dreamt a number that big. Folks, this has been the video. It has been incredible. Thank you all for joining in. If you have comments, questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below, and I will catch you all next week. Peace.